on today's show.
Please, I want Baby because Woo-sung hates playing that song. And all I want is that man to have to play it for nine, and you know what? That's fucking payback, motherfucker, for us asking for that during sound check or during World, and you blatantly saying no. So I want you to have to suffer through that song for 9 long nights.
This is K-Rockcast, the podcast where music and perspectives collide.
I'm Anne, a music lover who's the ultimate fan.
And I'm Kelly, a professional musician. Join us as we dive into the world of the Rose and other Korean and Asian rock bands.
Sometimes we'll agree, sometimes we'll wildly disagree, but what's guaranteed is a passionate, hilarious, and unfiltered conversation about the music that unites us and the bands that inspire us. Hi, everybody. We're back, and we wanted to release a special Hot Takes episode. This is called Into the Blue Moon. We wanted to share our reactions, our thoughts, and our perspectives on the announcement that the Rose gave on April 9th, talking about their new album, their upcoming tour, but also their indefinite hiatus. So we wanted to share our thoughts on what's in store next. And, you know, Kelly, this is not the first time this has kind of happened to us, right? I think as course of these sort of things have gone on with the Rose, for better or worse, our listeners and our followers tend to look to you and I. They want to hear our thoughts and perspectives. So I know we both have gotten quite a bit of requests.
Hell of a lot
to respond.
Yeah, hell of a lot of requests for our thoughts and our theories and a little bit of emotional support. Because again, the hen house has been kicked. But yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yep. But we have some exciting news on K-Rockcast. So why don't you share with our viewers and our listeners the exciting news that we have?
Of course, because as per normal, every time we have anything exciting to say, our news is always trumped. There we go. Because they're just great at doing it. So we have hit over 10,000 subscribers on Instagram. Thank you very much, people, for doing that. Most of that is Anne's hard work. Because she tends to put all of those reels out that you all love and adore. And she works really, really hard on that. So what we're going to do as a little celebration for our 10,000 is we're going to do a giveaway. The giveaway will be running until the 30th of April. And there are a selection of goodies. And if you go over onto our IG account, there's full details there of what you need to do to be into a chance to win some of these goodies, which obviously now are going to be collector's items. Some of them, let's not ask how we got hold of them, but we managed to get them. And all we can actually say is thank you very, very much for your support. And the answer is really, really easy if you watch the podcast.
Yeah, you know me. I had to get in there. Like, okay, let's see. If you really want that grand prize, you're going to give our episode a view, and you're gonna stay to the end.
Yeah, exactly.
The answer is not in the first 5 minutes, and then you can drop off. Just so you know. All right. Well, thank you. I echo that, Kelly. Thank you to everyone. You know, we would never have reached 10,000 followers on IG without all of your support, and we thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts. So we wanted to kind of give back to all of you. But as you said, Kelly, you know, with the Rose, I feel like we're always connected with them, and it was kind of weird in this instance because I felt like it was like they were announcing the end of a chapter and the end of part of their journey where we hit a milestone but kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. It was just so strange that we literally hit 10K on the day they announced and made that announcement. It was just so
10
strange
10.
and so bizarre.
Yeah.
I know. It's just so strange. So we are going to break this down, viewers and listeners, K-Rock cast style, like we always do. We're going to give you the facts. We're going to give you the information, but we're going to give our opinions and our perspectives. I think as we've done several of these episodes now, Kelly, which I laugh because one of our viewers on Patreon was like, everybody needs to rewatch Into the Future. So
it's all in there.
Maybe we need to. I feel like yes, and I don't even remember when we did that episode, but it was a while ago now, and I think we
Ages ago,
predicted
yeah.
In K-Rock cast fashion, we predicted a lot of what is coming to fruition. I think we didn't know exactly when, but none of this is
folks,
a surprise for
us.
us.
We aren't witches, honestly. There's no crystal balls involved with any of this, I can promise.
Yeah. And as we always have to disclaim, we also do not work for the Rose.
Oh, God, no.
And so
no.
these are our opinions. We do not have a line direct to the Rose. We don't work for them. We don't talk to them. So please just understand that these are our perspectives that we'll give throughout. So let's start with the Instagram announcement that the Rose made on April 10th. So the band did post on their official Instagram account. And I thought this was interesting, Kelly, not just that they posted on the official band account, but if you noticed, every individual member's account was also a collaborator on this post.
Yeah.
So that they don't do that very often.
They rarely do
which
that.
means
which is insane.
they rarely do that. Yeah, they rarely do that. So I just think that was really significant. So we are going to read, it's kind of a long post. So we're going to break it up. I'm going to read the first half and Kelly's going to read the second half. So it starts, quote, "For the last 10 years, the Rose has been our home, our safe place, our reason to keep going. Through every stage, every city, and every moment, you were there with us. Because of you, we learned what love feels like. We learned what loss feels like, what it means to live a dream. There were nights we thought we wouldn't make it, and nights we wished would never end. But somehow, we always found our way back to each other and to you."
The Rose has been our biggest cushion to fall into, a place where our lives existed fully and completely. And maybe that's why this moment feels so heavy and so beautiful at the same time. With our upcoming album Rose and the tour Rosetopia, we want to close this chapter with you the way it deserves. After this, we'll be taking a break, not an ending, but a moment to breathe, to grow, and to find ourselves again individually, so that one day we can come back to you with even more to give. This isn't goodbye, it's just once in a blue moon.
So this was included, Kelly, with several pictures and videos. One was this beautiful artwork that Ha-Jun created. And, I think just the day prior, he had put out a story kind of showing a file on his laptop that said the Rose artwork.
I was trying to work out which body fold it was, to be perfectly honest. You could just see a clip of something and it looked like somebody's arm bent. And I was like, what the hell is this? Are they doing graphics like this time? Okay.
Yeah, so we had that. I kind of want to dig into this and maybe we can kind of show an image on the screen as we're talking a little bit. Kelly, what's your kind of initial thought when you see this image he put together?
It's a map. It's an atlas map. It's a collage.
Yeah, it made me. What is that called? I don't know my maps. Is it a topical map that shows you the height of? That's what I think of.
Yes.
When I see it.
yes and no, but actually it's a collage of all the places that they've played, just overlaid into a collage on top of each other and then just color graded, so it gives you
So
the look.
when you say places, do you mean like the countries? They've taken the
Yes.
shape of the
Yeah.
country from a
Yeah.
map and put
Yeah,
them
and
on?
just twisted it.
Oh.
So if you look up in the top corner away from the rose,
Mm.
that's quite obvious where that is. I'm testing
Okay,
everybody's
not to me,
geography. I'm
so
testing everybody's geography now.
yeah, apparently it's not to me, so why don't you tell us? I don't know what country that is. It the yellow? What color are you looking at?
Oh, it's in the blue. It's up at the top.
Oh, okay.
It's part of the US. It looks like it's places that they've played,
Hmm,
and they've
maybe.
collaged it and then created it so it looks like shattered glass. So it works on multiple levels. It's very, very clever. And I do wonder if it's
Yeah.
one of the ideas he probably had when they were doing World.
Yeah, I could kinda see that. I mean, to me, I definitely saw a map, and I think the lyrics that we've heard, so we also got a snippet in this post of what will be their lead single. We're recording this on April 12th. The single is supposed to be released on April 13th, so when this episode is out, everyone will have heard Blue Moon. Some of the lyrics he says, it's talking about traveling the world, right? It's talking about, um, that experience they've had as part of the band. So I think that's to me where that map
Yeah,
is tying in. I also see the colors representing each member, right? So
yeah.
we've got the pink for Jeff and the red for Dojun and the blue for Hajun and the white for Wusang. So I kind of saw each of them represented.
Mm.
Not sure the use of the yellow. Like, I get the green usage, but I'm not quite sure of the use of the yellow exactly,
Well, I mean, there's also
like what it might represent.
there's also the fact as well that the actual official post, a lot of the language that's used in that, I think, will be replicated in the album. So I think we're going to see those words as lyrics in the album. If not in Once in a Blue Moon, it's going to be sprinkled in the new tracks as we go along.
Yeah, I mean, some of the language I read is literally the lyrics that we hear in the post in
Yeah,
Blue Moon.
exactly. And and as we've
Yeah,
and as
yeah.
we've always said, they have a rose dictionary that they stick to, and it doesn't matter what they do, whether that's writing something like a Dear John letter that we've all just received, or whether or not that is, their actual lyrics. But they have their own vernacular that they stick to quite heavily. So I think we'll see a lot of that repeated throughout the actual album. Um,
Mhm.
so part of this, as well as the music, also included the tour announcement. So brace yourselves, folks. This is coming in hot. It appears that the very first date is going to be June the 5th. So, time to max out your credit cards, folks, because that'll be happening. However,
Crazy.
absolute insanity. We have a very, very lovely poster. I really like this. I like the fact as well that it looks like Paris. The actual map itself looks like
Mhm.
the centre of Paris from the Champs Elysees outwards. Um, so that's quite a very sweet idea. And then what they've done around it is they've spattered what I would say is clockwise, and quite possibly, I might be very wrong about this, but I would assume this is possibly the path that the actual shows will take. So the no dates are given per actual venue, but they might still be finalising that, as silly as it sounds. These can be finalised right up to the last minute. But we have down on this, starting clockwise, London, Paris, Berlin, Warsaw, Sao Paulo, Mexico City, Los Angeles, San Jose, Grand Prairie, and possibly finishing in New York. So That's an interesting thought. This is Editor Cal, and I was almost right. We aren't going clockwise, we're going anti clockwise. The dates have been announced today. On the 5th of June in New York at the Emphasis Theatre at Madison Square Garden. On the 8th of June at Grand Prairie at the Texas Trust CU Theatre. On the 10th of June at San Jose at the San Jose Civic. On the 12th of June in Los Angeles at the Peacock Theatre. On the 17th of June at Mexico City at Arena Comex. On the 21st of June in Sao Paulo at the Escapo Unimed. And on the 24th of June in Warsaw at Kostrevo. On the 26th of June in Berlin at the Uber Eats Musical Hall. On the 28th of June in Paris at the Zenith Paris La Villette. And on the 30th of June, finishing in London at the Eventim Apollo. Tickets go on sale on the 17th of April.
Yeah, I
Obviously,
loved
though.
your perspective that it could be the clockwise, could be the order of the shows. I hadn't even kind of thought of that, but
Yeah, I
think
mean, it's
that's
sort of like you
a good
go
idea.
Europe, South America, North America. So, I mean, that kind of makes
It makes
more
sense.
it makes more sense. What doesn't make any sense whatsoever at all is there's no bloody dates in Asia. Nothing
Yeah,
at all in total.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, I am too. Very, very shocked by that because we know that they
Yeah.
do have an audience in Asia, in a lot of places, and they normally sell out really well. So yeah, I'm kind of surprised by that. One of the things you will notice as well is the actual promotion for this tour is by AEG and Powerhouse. So it's not been done by Wasserman. And it also appears to be a actual label collaboration as well between Windfall and Wolfpack 2. So that's something new because that's the first time they've sat side by side. So they're running this as two separate things. And when we get a little bit later on into a conversation, I'll bring up the Wolfpack thing again, but that's something to pay attention to on the poster.
Mm.
And then we have the details of the upcoming album. Now, we don't know when the album's going to be dropped, but I think we can possibly assume it is going to be towards the end of April, so it's going to land quickly. This will, from all points that I can actually understand, literally just be a digital release, but we will mention that again a little bit later on. Lead single Blue Moon will be released on April the 13th. So as we're recording today, it's going to land tomorrow. You will have heard a sort of 5-6 second snippet on the track where it just loops around.
근데 이 코드만 듣고 우리 곡을 알 수 있는 사람이 있을까? 어떤 멜로디일지? 아까 못 들으신 분들 위해서 한 번만 다시 틀어줄게. 이런 곡입니다. I think you guys like it. Because this song is really serious, deep, like constellation. So I really like it.
And there's no other information about other tracks that will be on there. We're assuming that Utopia is going to be the title track, which will fit into the nice idea of Rosetopia. And the album is going to be called Rose, which goes back to conversations that the guys were having when they were sat in the Windfall office and somebody dropped the clanger about the album was going to start with an R and be 4 letters. So, I mean, we went round in circles. I think we had Rise, didn't we, and all sorts of things like that. We said, it can't be Rose. That's too bloody obvious. They've gone with the obvious on this one. So, yeah, it's interesting what's been mentioned and what's not been mentioned on this, but we'll find out over the next coming days, I would have thought, let alone coming weeks.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean the tour information's going to come any day now. I mean, by the
Yeah,
time this comes out, it could have even been released.
possibly, yeah.
So yeah, we shall see. All right, there's another interesting thing that was in the post. There was this series of emojis all in a line. Maybe, Kelly, we can bring up this image as well as we talk about it.
Yeah.
So I have to give a shout out to Nicole, one of our brilliant Black Roses that is one of our Patreon members. She put in our group chat on Patreon, she's like, what if this could be a set list clue for the tour? And I thought that was brilliant. So I put a post out on IG, and that post has gotten so much fun engagement of just people making guesses at what these little emojis could mean, because they definitely appear like they could easily align to song titles.
Yeah.
And then I just thought it was hysterical, because if that's true, there are old song titles in there. And I literally had just put out this fun reel on our IG to ask people if they could ask for the Rose to put in any old song back in the set list. Like, what would you want to hear? And it was so fun seeing everybody's answers. And then we see that this could really be true, that they could be doing some really old songs, which is so fun.
Yeah, there's some classics in this, and we can take a stab in the dark at what a lot of these are. There's some that I look at and I think, I have no idea whatsoever at all. But there are some that are really obvious.
Yeah, so the praying hands, I've seen a lot of people say that's sorry.
No, yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
I'm not sure about the sunshine.
I don't know.
I'm not sure about that one.
Yeah.
Maybe tomorrow?
Possibly.
Because he talks about the sun will kiss the sky. Remember that one?
Possibly. Yeah, there is possibly that.
Then we've got a piece of candy. So that's probably candy so good. Then we've got a little baby angel, which some people said's baby, some people said's angel.
Yeah. I'd prefer it to be angel than baby.
Please, I want baby because Wusong hates playing that song. And all I want is that man to have to play it for 9 fucking 9 and you know what, that's fucking payback, motherfucker, for us asking for that during sound check or during World, and you blatantly saying no. So I want you to have to suffer through that song for 9 long nights. That would make me happy.
You do realize, though, that yes, this works very, very well, and these could all be old tracks. But are any of these new tracks?
Yeah, they could. Oh yeah, sure. Like Black Heart, like maybe.
But I mean, we've got Zeds in there, so are we playing Snooze as well?
No, you know what that one is.
I have no idea.
That's gonna be goddamn Insomnia.
Oh,
I can't sleep.
He'll fucking sleep when my boot sails through the stage towards his head. Yeah, no, we're not having any of that. No, let's leave that one well alone. But
I think the only one I'm not sure of too is the little candle. Maybe that's a new one. Anyway, let us know in the comments of this episode if you guys have ideas on these little emojis. I laughed because one of our followers made this funny reel and tagged us of this scene from Night at the Museum when Robin Williams' character is like talking about the hieroglyphics, and he's like interpreting them very literally. And I thought, it's the world cap again. It's that fucking world cap that we never
Never had
know
an
what
answer
those
to.
little squiggles meant.
No.
Never got an
No.
answer to that, and never will.
No. That's probably because they
It's like
can't
those
even remember what it
subtitles.
was.
It's like the subtitles that never came.
Oh,
Never
you
came.
mean the invisible subtitles? Yeah, those ones. Yeah.
It's like the subtitles that never came.
Yeah.
All right. That was fun. Something else that dropped that I thought was really interesting that we kind of wanted to talk about was there was a Forbes article that actually was released about 24 hours before the Rose made their post on April 10th. Now, I picked up on this and put this out through our IG. It was released by a contributor to Forbes magazine. Her name is Regina Kim. And she attended Woosung's meet and greet event on March 11th in Queens, New York. This was an event sponsored through Samsung and Dive Studios at the Samsung Galaxy Experience store there in Queens, New York. So he did a Q&A, he did a meet and greet with fans, and he did sit down with Regina Kim and did an interview. This article included that interview along with just general information about Dive Studios kind of having a lot of these artists do these meet and greets throughout the country. But in this interview, he talked about the upcoming Rose album, but he also got very candid about the individual members' aspirations and projects. So basically, in this interview, he kind of said a lot of the things that ended up coming out 24 hours later by the Rose themselves. So just a couple, we linked this full article. Definitely read it if you haven't already in this episode description. Just some of the things I kind of wanted to highlight. He says, quote, "As for what comes next after the band's tour, Woosung shared that the band will soon take a step back to focus on individual pursuits. Woosung says, I'm going to do Woosung full time, he said, referring to his solo work, meaning the Rose will take a small break, maybe a long break. We don't know yet. He added that the members are ready to explore personal ambitions after a decade of prioritizing the band. Quote, you know, it's been 10 years where everything we did was for the Rose, he said. Every personal decision was for the Rose. I think we need to take some time and focus on our personal lives. Each member has different things they want to try, for example, musical acting, solo albums for other members as well. But it was so hard with the Rose's schedule. It was always pushed to the side. So we're going to take some time doing that. As for himself, Woosung revealed that aside from his solo music, he also hoped to manage other artists. I want to be behind the scenes supporting artists, he said, but that's not what every member wants to do. So that's why we're taking some time. Still, he emphasized that a hiatus wouldn't be unusual. With the Rose's history, we always do this. We take 2-3 years and then come back, he said. I don't know how long it's going to be this time. So Kelly, why don't we kind of now move into just our own perspectives and thoughts on this break hiatus? Why don't you kind of start?
Well, first point, James Hill isn't allowed near any bands in the future that we like. Because so far this year, thank you, James, this is 2 of my favourite bands that are now on hiatus, thanks to you. Leave all bands alone. Find a new career, dude. Jesus Christ.
I love that you discovered that. This through line is James Hill. We can blame him
James
now.
Hill.
Great.
Do you know what? He sound engineered one of the very last gigs I did in one of my old bands. The man has a history. That's all I'm saying.
I know. You said that too. Keep him away from Spectrum, Kelly. Keep him away.
He ain't coming anywhere near us. Leave us alone. But yeah, no, I mean, I've already lost While She Sleeps this year, and now he does this. James, stop it. To be honest, taking hiatus isn't a unusual thing. it isn't for people who tend to start out in their careers in the late teens, early 20s. They all tend to have a bit of a wobble. In fact, everybody has a bit of a wobble when you're in your 30s. I had a wobble when I was in my 30s, but at the time I wasn't in a band. So I managed to have my wobble very politely out of the public eye. And I went out, did something else, found myself, and then suddenly went, oh shit, I actually miss music. I need to get back into this. This is kind of what's happening with them. This is them just growing and exploring and understanding who they are as people and developing areas that they have other wants and needs and other experiences that they definitely want to go through. A lot of bands have hiatus, and I hate to say this is going to sound really skeptical, but they normally get back together again when their accountant tells them they have to. But, you know, I hate to say that, but that is generally speaking what tends to happen with a lot of acts. They've all done it. And yeah, I mean, they've all, it's been hinted at. I mean, I know we've kind of mentioned this in previous podcasts. I don't think we've necessarily said that they will definitely go on hiatus. I know we've hinted that it could happen. We felt that it could happen. I know we've had private conversations that we got a feeling it was heading towards this, because you could see extracurricular activities becoming more obvious. Things were being said, little hints were being dropped. There's been so many breadcrumbs from all of them. Every single member, well, I say every single, apart from Hajuni, every single member has been dropping breadcrumbs about their future pursuits. And if you've been paying attention, it's quite obvious. But I mean, it's just what they have to do. They need this. They need to move through it. I don't necessarily think this is a case of them moving apart as people. I mean, don't get me wrong, bands argue. They really do. Sometimes they get into fucking fist fights. You don't speak to each other for months. It happens. And sometimes when those things happen, you step away for a minute or two and go, is this really what I want? Do I really want to be dealing with this? Maybe I should look at this avenue I want to experience. And when the dust is settled, then come back to it. So I think there's many reasons whether of how this has happened and why this has happened. But I think the signs have been there for a while. And personally, for me, it's felt like a long divorce. Divorced is a very strong word. I'm not saying completely and utterly, but it's felt like the boxes and suitcases have been slowly disappearing from the house for a while now, and then suddenly a room's empty. What's your thoughts on it, Am?
Yeah, I think like we said at the top, and I agree with you, you know, I wasn't surprised. Doesn't mean it still doesn't feel sad. You know, like even though I've been, particularly the last few months, I think following Woo-sung's interviews, his live streams, I think he's been leaving comments, you know, along the way. I read between the lines. And so like, I felt like this exact kind of announcement was coming. I think things that he shared in the interview with Regina Kim for Forbes, he shared very openly in Michael Yeoh's interview. And also he said things on his IG live stream that he held on February 8th that kind of could be overlooked at the time, you know, maybe in isolation, but then when you kind of piece it, all together.
When will we see you? You are seeing me right now. And you'll see us more often now. I think we're coming out of our little small hiatus we had, so And then after that, we might be on a longer hiatus. We'll see.
Just do whatever I feel at the time with my solo career. And I think moving forward too, like I've never really like focused it like 100% yet, which I think I'm planning to do now.
Nice.
Yeah.
I thought, honestly, like I think I was expecting it to come more after this tour. I think I was kind of expecting this album to be I think it's going to be an EP, and I don't think it's going to be a full-length album. I think we're going to get another EP, and I didn't expect such a small tour.
No.
I kind of thought they'd have more of a robust comeback, and then I was kind of expecting there to be an announcement then and kind of taking like a break. I was a little bit surprised of the announcement before the comeback.
One of the things though with the tour, and I mean it's just pinged into my head, this is the worst year to organise a tour ever. This is so bad. This is such a bad year because everybody is touring. And I mean, June and July for me, I'll be lucky if I get to see them. I've already got 6 gigs that I'm going to see. So I'll be surprised if I get to see this tour at all. So yeah. And obviously we've got huge acts touring. So you've got, you know, BTS and everybody else like that, but you've also got some of the behemoths of the pop world and the rock world and the rap world, and everybody's out basically making money as much as they can. But because there's been such a squish with a lot of the live venues since COVID and then everything that's happened, there's a lot of venues shut down, so there's even less. So
yeah, I know.
This might be why there's only so many dates.
Yeah. I think to me also I've been like reflecting, and I don't know exactly when they may have made the final decision to go on hiatus. Because I think that they have been just really kind of, like you said, in a little way, like dragging out the inevitable, like maybe knowing in their hearts, like this is where they were heading, but weren't ready to say, we're going to take a break yet. But I think back to, you know, our discussions on the World album. And so if any of our viewers and listeners are maybe newer to the podcast, please check out those deep dives for World. They're some of our best work. I think there were some really good discussions, but we saw burnout. Kelly, remember that was a theme we talked about a lot in the World album. And I think of when we did the breakdown of the photosynthesis series last year in episode 5, where they talked about losing their spark.
Yeah.
You know, I think they've been, I think they have been kind of on this trajectory, but I'm sure it must just be so hard to kind of finally make that decision. And, you know, I'll say, like I said, like selfishly, and this is, I will say is completely selfish. I'm sad. I'm sad that I won't have new music from the Rose after this album for a little while, maybe ever. We don't really know.
Yeah.
And that makes me sad, but I completely and wholeheartedly understand their decision and support their decision, because I think of, you know, for me, I immediately went to BTS, and this is very similar to what BTS went through over the last like 4 years. And I think Sam said it in that interview when you know this as being part of bands, when you are in a group, the group comes first. And that is at a sacrifice of you as a person. It's at a sacrifice of your personal life. It's at a sacrifice of what you want to do in terms of your career aspirations. And I remember with the BTS members, they shared very similar perspectives and they felt a lot of guilt. You know, they love the group and they love their fans, but they needed to take a step back. And I think what came out of that was each member got to explore who they were as individuals and their own color. And then when they came back together as a group, to me, and I think it's alluded in the post that the Rose wrote, you know, they came back stronger and they evolved. And I think for me, I can see this as an opportunity where I have said this on the podcast before. I want them to evolve their sound. I want them to evolve as music artists. And I don't think they have, as a group,
not at all,
truly like evolved. I think Duel was an evolution for them, but I think they took a step back in that evolution with World. And I'm not saying that as a slight against World, but I'm hoping that this opportunity gives them a chance to explore themselves and come back together stronger.
Yeah.
So it seemed like you wanted to kind of add to that.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things. So I think obviously they're having the quarter life crisis. That's basically what it is. It's a quarter life crisis, basically, when you're a musician, because you do kind of look at it and think, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, I haven't got time to do this. And what you tend to see is there's a ticking clock. And I think when you're sort of in your mid-30s and you get this ticking clock moment and you're like, ugh, and you either rise or you fall. And can you remember me saying, to me, they're at a plateau point. They either spring from here or they collapse. The guys have taken the latter. I hate to say it. It's gonna collapse to a certain extent because they are all going to go off and do their own things, and the people that follow will follow for a while. If they enjoy it, they'll carry on. When it comes back together, you will get a group of the core fandom back in, but you'll never get the full fandom back because they'll have moved on to different pastures new. It's just one of the things that happens. But you've also got the other side of this as well. I think once you've had this break, and I'm saying this as somebody who's been through it, but also the fact that I know other people that have been through it as well, who are very successful. And they've taken a rest. They've taken respite. They've had a life as they describe it. But they've then realised what it was they've missed. And they come back into it stronger and they evolve and they become mature in their writing. Again, going back to BTS saying, actually, we need to do this as version 2.0. We're adults now. We can't carry on writing the same crap. And I find the guys evolved with Jewel, and it was a beautiful evolution. That album, Chef's Kiss, that to me is the fucking annoying point. And I am going to say this, and I will say it loud and fucking proud. They annoy the fucking shit out of me. That album, you sell out the Forum. What do? You use that as power to propel you forward. You play Coachella. What do? You use that as power to propel you forward. If you look at every act that's now just played Coachella this weekend, they all have something lined up to send them forward. It basically acts like it's a catapult. It pulls back, it's an elastic band, it pulls you back and you go ping, and it effortlessly pushes you forward. The guys basically went on a break for like however many months it was and lost that momentum. The elastic band just contracted. It didn't pull back and snap, it just contracted. And I think that hasn't helped because it doesn't regenerate them. And with BTS, obviously BTS had their 4-year break. They all went out and did the solo projects, did their mandatory service and things like that. The Rose didn't have the luxury of that because when they were doing their mandatory service, they all did it at the same time. And then you'd got Sammy basically doing a legal battle at the side. So there was no room for them to grow. They were still locked in time-wise. They hadn't got the fact that the guys went in. I mean, they literally went, if I remember correctly, they literally went in like a month's difference after each other, didn't they? It was only really 2 years or so.
A month or two.
Yeah, it wasn't much at all. So they didn't even get a little bit of breathing space from each other in that. It's like they all went in together and they all came out together and, you know, and they were back there. But people evolve. Bands evolve. Your life evolves. And I think once you've gone through this and you come out the other side, you can't blame life for holding you back. So what you'll tend to find is you'll have musicians that then come back and it's like, oh, actually, I'm at this point in my life. And this is the bit I don't agree with. Them saying every decision they've ever made was for the band and for nothing else. That is a weak-ass excuse. You don't. I think when you initially start out and you've got your blinkers on, and that is literally all you see, and that's your only goal, fine, it does. But I think once you've opened your eyes up and you go, that's the final goal, but I've got to bring this with me, you find ways to incorporate your life to move forward. I mean, I'm in a band, 2 of them are married, 1 of them has kids. You work around it. We move ourselves around. The circus just becomes bigger instead of it just be dragging this small weight behind you. You know, it's not a weight behind you anymore. It's a circus with moving parts, and you learn how to do it. And I think they will do it, but I just don't think they had chance to do it when a lot of bands did it, which is why now it's suddenly becoming a hiatus. If any of that made sense.
Yeah, why don't we talk? We talked a little bit about, you were kind of talking about the other hiatus they went on. Why don't we talk a little bit about that? Because I kind of felt like some similar, like, messaging and kind of ways that they did that. Yeah. Circumstances different.
Yeah, different circumstance, but very similar language. So obviously in 2020, they went on the hiatus because of military service and all of the crap with their record label and their management. So they did a very similar message at the time, and I'll read you that in a second or two. But they also did a gift of a song. And I think, judging by the language of Blue Moon, I think this again is a fan service song similar to Black Rose. So they're going to leave us black and blue, folks. Yeah, because I need bruising. Thank you for that. But they went away, they took their time, and then came out with the masterpiece that was Heal. So, you know, we might be 5 years down the line. And my thinking is, if they're coming back, I think, folks, it's going to be more like 5 years. It's not going to be 2 or 3. I think we're looking 4 or 5, to be honest. Because once they start moving and the other things start gathering momentum, it's harder to pull it back. Once the marbles are scattered, It's definitely harder for them to roll back together again. So the original message was from the 2020 hiatus was, hello, our lovely Black Roses. It's already our 3rd year walking together on this beautiful road to whatever the destination may be. Every day has been such a blessing for us ever since we met. Thank you always for being by our side through all the ups and downs. With every journey, there is a detour or a resting period. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? We think the members going into the army now is the right time for us to just sit wherever we are and enjoy the view that we are not able to see while we're moving forward. There are things we can learn and experience only when we stop and take the time to appreciate. We really hope that we can come out of all of this and tell you guys all about our experiences. Until then, we've prepared a little gift for our Black Roses, which we hope to reveal soon. Miss you. See you in a little bit. This is pretty much the message that we've received. Again,
I know
it's another dig on.
It's why I completely went back to it. And I
Yeah.
think I wanted to remind, I mean, Sammy reminded us in that article as well, but I wanted to remind our viewers and our listeners that I know people are reacting to this in your own way. You know, the Roses music means something different to every person and has impacted every person's life in a different way. And so you're going to handle this news in a different way. But I just wanted to give this as some perspective because this has happened before. Again, different circumstances that were driving it, but they found their way back. And when they came back with like you think of Heal was an evolution from the content and the music that they created prior to that hiatus of Void and Dawn and Red, right? And so I think it just goes back to kind of what we've been saying, that you know, I have a lot of faith and hope that this is going to be a positive for them. I kind of also thought about when they did Super Band, that competition show. And that was the first time where they actually got to work with different musicians.
Yeah.
And how the articles that I've read during that time, they really said that they grew as artists and musicians from that experience. And so I think, again, it just reinforces that any individual experience that they're going to have, it's going to be something that's going to help them grow as people and as musicians.
Yeah.
So why don't we wrap with our thoughts and our predictions on what we think maybe the individual members will do as projects? Why don't you start, Kelly?
Wow. I think some of it's very obvious. Very, very obvious. And I think they've all got multiple strings to the bows. Obviously, we know Sam's going to do Sam. Sam's already said Sam's going to do Sam. And he's also going to go down the management route. I found it quite interesting that he said that the others weren't bothered about that. I thought that was quite interesting. I thought that said a lot, and I think that might have actually been, if we've had any arguments, I think that's where the arguments come in. I also think
I'm glad you pointed that out. I wanted to talk about that. I thought that was interesting.
I also think this explains why there is Windfall and Wolfpack on the posters. Because it's two separate entities. I think he's going to make Wolfpack more of a managerial thing than an actual record label. Windfall will probably become non-surplus, shall we say. It's going to be put on hiatus itself going forward. But obviously, Sam's just going to do Sam. Sam it's just him. He'll find a way. Whatever he does, he will make sure his face is up front doing whatever he does. I don't think we need to worry about him. Dojuni. Dojun has the ability to be one of the best producers out there. I am not only just saying that from my own personal perspective of what he does and how well he does it. I'm saying this from the fact that we have talked to some of the people who are up there in the top of their fields. We're talking about, Emmy nominated and Grammy nominated sound engineers, songwriters, producers, mixers. They've all said the same thing. When they talk about the Rose, they all talk about Dojun, and they all talk about how good he is when it comes to production. Production isn't a dying trade. A lot of people try it and think they understand it, but true crafted production, there isn't enough people doing. And if he can do that, he has a career for life. And it's a comfy career. You can have a family life being a producer. You can do all of those things. And you can, and he can still get his creativity out there without being razzle dazzle. However, I am going to mention razzle dazzle because I still think musical theatre. And there is even a comment about musical acting.
I know. Please let that be Dojun, Sam.
Yeah. So, I mean, he does have that feeling of musical theatre within him. And I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't go down that route. I mean, we've seen Hongi from FT Islands. He's been doing musical theatre just recently in drag. He looks very good in drag, may I just point out. And so, I mean, there is a call for it. So it might be that he's going down that route too. And then obviously we pray to the altar literally once a week that at some point we're going to get a Dojuni solo album. It might come in the form of musical theatre, but eventually it might come out. And then we have our gorgeous Tay. Now, we know that Tay is an actor at heart. He has already done acting. He's already done a web series. And the thing with him is he is in that awkward situation of he is an attractive man of a certain age, which means he's going to be typecast. And it also means he needs to do it now or it's going to be too late. If you've got, a slightly more rough around the edges look about you or a slightly more quirky face, you tend to fall into character roles and you can get away with it whatever age you are. It doesn't matter, whether you're a teenager or whether you're in your 60s, you can start your career and it doesn't matter. But when you are like Tay and you are an attractive man, you've kind of got to strike where the iron's hot. And this is he's getting to his cut-off point now. Now, obviously, before Christmas, we saw him with Janet, sweeping the boards in LA, hobnobbing with the best. I honestly and truthfully think he's having that part of his career push forwards. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not already, if he hasn't been auditioning for stuff. I think it's coming up. We know for a fact he did actually post. It would have been last summer before they did the world tour. He posted an acting book, didn't he, on one of his pages?
Yeah, he did.
And obviously he's been making sure that his physique is in prime condition, which he reminds about continuously. I don't know whether it's just to remind us that he's doing that or if it's all just a call for the fact that we all should be at the gym to make us feel guilty. I'm not sure what it is, one or the other.
I know. I hope he keeps those up. I'll miss those.
Well, yeah. I mean, he must be habit now. It's like some weird tick with him, so he's got to carry on doing that. And then obviously we also know he's been modelling as well. So he's the only one that seems to have kept contact with Roy to a certain extent. And he's been doing little bits and pieces with Roy and the photographer and everything else that Roy works with. So I think his trajectory is very much marked moving forwards. I don't think we're necessarily going to get anything musical out of Tay, which is kind of heartbreaking in a way. but I think his is more that other creative aspect of it. Right. Hajuni is the one I worry about. Because, and I know, Anne, put your finger in your ear. Fingers, put them in your ears. Good girl. I don't think Hajuni's a solo artist. I don't think he's got it in him. I don't think he is a big enough character to pull that forward. You can remove him now. You can take him out. There you go. I think he
More
is
Hajun vocals.
Yeah. I think he is an excellent songwriter, and I could see him working in song clinics, and doing very, very well with that. But that is a hard trade to get into, and it's an even harder trade to stay in. He has at least got a legacy of work behind him, and he's got people that can say actually he can do that as a songwriter and as a song doctor as well, because I mean song doctors exist. They come in and they work with bands. You'll sometimes see them in the background when they're in a studio and a band will have come in, they're working on something and something doesn't quite fit, and they'll get a songwriter to come in and they basically act like a shadow songwriter, and they will just tweak things and then they'll say take that out. They kind of work as like an executive song producer in a way, but they'll craft and mold the actual harmonies and the lyrics and things like that. And we know, or should I say we've now started to realize that Juni is the powerhouse of all of the harmonies of the Rose anyway. That he's the beating heart of where that all comes from. I could also see him possibly getting a bit bored with that and just joining another band.
All right, ready for my breakdown?
Yeah, go on then. Go for your breakdown.
Okay, I think first and foremost, they are focusing on personal relationships. I think we're gonna see them get married. I think we're going to see them start to have families. Yeah, I think that's like first and foremost. You know, it's so funny because right before this announcement, this old content just kind of came back in my algorithm in YouTube, and it was from the Duel promotions where they were on the Dunkin' Donuts sound stage, and they performed a couple songs, and then they had this kind of fun like interview. And at the time, so this would have been summer maybe of 2023, coming into when they were getting ready to release Duel. And the question started about dating. And it kind of what came out of it was, you know, a little bit tongue-in-cheek joking, but I think there's a lot of truth to it, that they really couldn't like date and focus on their personal lives like that, because they said like they are married to their work, and they're honestly like married to each other in terms of them as a band. They're business partners, they have contracts, and they kind of said in that interview like the band comes first. And Dojun even said that, you know, he would like to have personal relationships and date and whatever, but that's just not possible really, like right now. And so that's to me when Sam says, you know, the band came first. I think for the four of them, the decisions that they made, which every band is different and every individual can make different decisions. I think the decisions they made up to that point was the band came first. And now I think they are able to take a step back. And I think a lot of them are going to focus on personal lives. I think then Taegyum, I agree. I think his focus is going to be acting and modeling. I could see him with some ambassadorships. I think he's done some kind of advertising with brands. So
definitely.
I could see him doing that. With Hajun, I personally think he could be a solo artist. I think he has a tremendous voice, and I think he's an
You said you got
incredible
your
melody
fingers in your
writer.
ears.
I put that as mine. I'm not you don't think he can do it, but I think he can do it. That's your opinion. I'm giving you my opinion.
Yeah.
I could actually, my like dream is for him and Tay to create like a subunit and do something together, the two of them. I think that would be so cool to kind of see them shine and create their own kind of music that they would want together, because they've been together for so long. I think that would be fun. I think for Dojun, I definitely am hoping that was a spoiler of this musical theater potential. And I mean, Sammy did say other solo for people. So I think the most obvious is Dojun.
Yeah.
Though I wonder if he truly aspires for that. I do wonder that. And I think if anything, he is going to continue his behind the scenes songwriting and producing. I totally echo what you shared and what we've heard from the professionals that have come on to our show.
Yeah.
And I think he has such a long-term career with that. And maybe that's what he'll continue to do under, Windfall. I think with Woo-sung, I agree. He has said outright in these interviews that he really wants to focus on Woo-sung. I think he's kind of said before, up to now, like he does it on the side and he does it as a way to express himself in writing the kind of music that he wants, which is very different than what he does through the Rose. Again, right? Like he has full control over what he can put out. But he's always set up to now, Woo-sung was maybe when he would experiment or it was self-expression, but the Rose always came first.
Yeah.
And so now I think he's deciding to be able to focus on his solo career.
Yeah.
He said that he's got up to 20 songs, more than what's ready for the album. So he's got 12 to 15 ready to go on this album, this solo album, and he's got another 20 songs in the hopper. I think he could have multiple albums ready to crank out.
Yeah.
I think he's going to tour. He tends to do that with his solo stuff. So I think he's predicted it could come out in October, November. So I'm thinking if that stays on a trajectory, he's probably going to tour through the winter.
Yeah, that's his time frame. Yeah, definitely.
And then I kind of feel like all of this has been kind of a foundation, I think, as you said, with dreams that he's had. These are not new. I mean, maybe it's new that he's talked about them in this article for Forbes and on the Michael Yo interview more publicly. But on the Rose Cast, which is a old podcast that was part of the Rosarium content, which is their fan app, he mentioned as far back as 2023 that his dream has never been, I think he kind of had, maybe not never been. That's not the best way to say it. I'll say he had a moment where he could see himself on a stage selling out a stadium of 60,000 people, and he didn't want it.
That was the one OK Rock show, wasn't it?
No, it was Sugar.
Was it not?
It was Sugar. It was him going to Permission to Dance at SoFi and seeing Sugar on that stage and putting himself in that position and realizing that isn't what he wants, that he wants to be behind the scenes and he wants to create something that could sell out a stadium. I think he still has very strong drive and ambition. But I think for him, I don't think he wants to be out in front for the rest of his career. I think his long-term career to me is being that person behind the scenes that's kind of pulling it all together. In that. So I think to me, when he announced in October of 2025, Alex Cotre-Vivat was his manager and his business partner, I think that was the foundation of
Oh
what
yeah,
Wolfpack is
yeah.
going to become in
Evolve
terms of
into,
this
yeah,
business.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, so interested in what is his timing on maybe actually doing that and kind of making
Mm,
that transition. Not sure kind of when, he'll do it or what kind of artists he might put himself behind. It sounds like to me he would look for an artist that he felt like aligned kind of to not it doesn't have to necessarily be the healing through music, but I think he would look for artists that he felt like had a message that they wanted to convey through their music. And it would need to be like a message that he felt like he could get behind. Like I don't see him just going out
yeah.
to any old artist.
The the the
I do
the
think he will
whole
be particular at who he promotes.
yeah, the whole thing with being a manager is you are basically a surrogate a parent for the person that you're managing. You've got to have belief in what they do, but you've also got to have belief in the
Mhm.
person. Because otherwise you
Mhm.
can't do it. You can't cope with everything that you need to push and portray for that person. So there will be a personal connection to whomever is he's managing, I would have thought.
Yeah. Well, I think that wraps it up, Kelly. So viewers and listeners, let us know your thoughts and your perspective. We will be coming back when the album is fully released. We will be planning deep dive episodes. So we're not going to do a separate episode on the song Blue Moon. We're going to wait and incorporate that deep dive
Mm.
into our full album deep dive for the Roses album called Rose. So we'll keep you updated as we know more about the tour. But please rate this podcast, leave us comments, let us know what you think. We always love to hear your feedback. Follow us on social media, Instagram, TikTok, X, and YouTube. We are at KROK_cast all across the board.
Click here to subscribe.
If you need just an ear, you need to just talk to someone, email us. We are happy to respond to you, talk you through anything, just listen. I know for some fans, you might feel alone. Maybe you don't have anyone else to talk to. Please reach out to us. You can always email at us at krock.cast@gmail.com. And check out our website, krockcast.com. We have new merchandise, so check that out. Some great swag to promote K-Rockcast. All right, everyone. See you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.